Hi. For today's database lesson, a few things I want to go over before we begin. First one, I'm extending the project to Thursday, April 16th. The reason I'm doing this is to give you guys a bit more time to work on your project, but also I feel there's some extra content that I can squeeze in. We do have a few extra days now as the teaching semester has been extended. Keep in mind, this is the last day. I cannot extend it beyond the 16th, so it will have to be submitted on that day. Okay, next up, the example I'm going to do today is a more advanced form example. This form we're going to create is going to have command buttons. These are buttons which can do common operations like add a new record, move to the next record, delete a record, update a record, etc. One thing that we haven't learned in this course so far, and I'm going to start adding into my lectures, is VBA, or Visual Basic for Access. So VBA allows us to basically run small programs or pieces of code inside our Access database. It's very, very similar to macros, but quite a bit more powerful. And one of the concerns I have with the project is that you're going to run into some situations where doing things using macros is going to be very difficult and tedious, and using VBA would be a better solution. So I'm going to start introducing some examples that use VBA and try to go over them a little bit. Okay, and then just one other thing I want to point out, this is more of a reminder, but I have changed the course so that we don't have a final exam. And instead of the final exam, I'm going to be assigning a take-home assignment. So this is just a reminder because now that we're extending the project to Thursday, April 16th, most likely on that day, I'll also be giving out the assignment. And then you'll only have really probably less than a week, maybe a week, to get the take-home assignment done. That way I can get them marked and submit all the marks. All right, well, let's get started on the form. So for today's lesson, go to Content, and then Lectures. And we have Tuesday, March 31st, Advanced Form. You can download the materials here to follow along. I've already got them downloaded here. So I'm gonna go ahead and open the database. All right, so we're just going to jump in and start creating a form. So basically I'm going to go to the Create tab, and as we usually do, we're going to use Design View for creating our form as it's considerably most powerful. Right, so I'm going to go Form Design. And first thing I'm going to do is go to my tab here on my property sheet. So if I don't see my property sheet, I can go up to the top right and enable it. And the first thing I want to do is set my record source. So this is going to indicate essentially where the data is going to come from, whether it's a query, whether it is a table. And in this case, I want to select a table. So I'm going to select the customer table. Oops, not that one. The customer table right here. So that way, whatever data I add to my form, it's going to be filled out with the customer table. All right, so I can go ahead and save this table, and I'm going to call it Customer Master Form. Sorry, save this form. All right, and I'm going to fill out a few more properties here. So the caption property, I'm going to use the caption Customer View and Update Form. And now I'm going to add some fields to my form. So I'm going to resize this just a little bit to give myself a bit more space. And so I can see here I've got a bunch of fields displayed here. And because I selected the customer table, it's decided to only show me the fields from that table, which is good. Okay, so the first field that I'm going to add is customer number. So I'm going to drag it in and place it according to the instructions somewhere around here. Okay, so I've got my customer number there, and notice the label is a truncated version, so I'm going to go and change the label So it displays customer number as well. I'll just adjust the positioning here a little bit. Okay. And the next one I want to do is I'm now going to add customer name all the way down to customer type. So to do this, I'm going to use a little trick holding Shift, and that basically is going to highlight all of them, and then I can drag them over and paste them into my form. And there we go. Okay. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is the same thing, only with the remaining fields here. So that's resources needed, amount paid, all the way down to returns. I'm going to leave book rep number out for now. Oops, just going to reposition these a little bit. Hold on, let me try that again. Uh-oh. Okay, there we go. Good enough there. That looks a little bit better. All right, so next up I'm going to be adding a combo box. And a combo box is a special control where you can basically select a bunch of items. You can also type into the drop down. So you can enter your own text if you need to. Okay, so to do the combo box, I'm going to go up to my design here, and one of these is going to be a combo box. So I just need to find this one. That's a list box. All right, here's a combo box. So the instructions tell me to click, and then I'm going to drop it in somewhere around there. And in this case, I want to select that I am going to find a record on my form based on the value in the combo box. No, I want the combo box to get the values from another table or query. Okay, so the idea here is that the book rep number is a foreign key, so it references the primary key in another table. So I want to be pulling the book rep numbers from that other table. So the first option is what I want. And just following along here on page 418 in the instructions, I'm then going to select book rep table. And I'm going to hit next. And from here, I need to add a bunch of fields. So I'm going to add book rep number. Then I am going to add first name, and I'm going to add last name. Okay. And I'll hit next again. And now it wants to indicate what is going to be displayed in the combo box, and I am going to sort the items by book rep number, and I can go ahead and click next, and this is what I will see in my combo box when I basically select it and the items drop down. Okay. Now, there's a question here. Do I want to hide the key column or not? Tap or click to remove. So they want me to remove the, so I'm also going to show the book rep number as well. So, I mean, that's kind of debatable whether you need to do that. Usually, if you can select someone, you're going to want to know their first and last name. I'm less likely if I'm using a form to know what the person's book rep number is, but you can include that information if you want as well. All right, so I'm going to hit next. Okay, and I hit next again. And the last thing wants me to select store that value in this field, and I'm going to store that in book rep number. Okay, so the idea here is if I was going to update or add a new record, the item in the combo box would be stored in the book rep number. Okay, so I can go ahead and go next again. And at this point, it wants me to give a name for the combo box. And the name that's being suggested by the book is book rep number. And that's going to be the label. Okay, perfect. So I can click finish. And there we go. There's my new combo box. Now at this point, if I want to just test it out, I can obviously switch to form view. And at this point here, I can see the data from the book rep table being pulled into this combo box. Now in addition, I can also type in an entry if I want. So I could hit 12, but of course there's no actual value for 12. But if I hit 53 and hit enter, then it allows me to enter a value, but that wasn't 53. So I go 53 and then, okay, there we go. I could go 42 and then there's a value selected as well. Okay, so next up, there's a few instructions here that go over how to change the background color. I'll just try to go through these really quickly. Formatting stuff, I'm not too concerned, obviously, about doing a lot of instruction on that. I figure you guys can go and, play around with some of the colors and set that up yourselves. So basically here, it wants me to click, well, I have to first off go back to design view. And it wants me to select anywhere outside to deselect all of the controls. And then it wants me to click on the form design tools format tab. And from here, there's a background color. So this arrow here allows me to select a background color for the detail area of the form. That's the main area of the form that doesn't include the headers and the footers. And the color it wants me to select is light gray 2. So I can go ahead and select light gray 2. And now if I were to save this and go back to my form view, you can see that the color has now changed. Okay. Okay, so next up, moving on, we're on to page 421. And we are going to do some formatting again. So a little bit more formatting. This one, there might be a nice trick that you guys can use for some of your formatting though. So I think this is a new one. All right, so I'm in the design tab and it wants me to click the customer number control. And then it wants me to go to the property sheet. Okay, so I'm gonna change the font weight here. Where's my font weight? Font weight. This could take a while. Okay, font weight. There we go. Font weight. And I'm going to change that to semi-bold. All right, and then I'm going to change the value of the special effect to sunken. Special effect. There we go. Sunken. Okay. All right, and then it wants me to tap or click the 4 color property. So let's see if I can find that 4 color right here. And I'm gonna select the build button. That's the 3 dots. And that's gonna pull up a color palette. And from here, I can select the dark blue color, which is near the bottom. Okay, so I selected that. And now you can see that my text here has been updated. And I'm also gonna do some formatting on the label as well. So I selected the label and I'm gonna change the font italic property to yes. So let's see here, font italic, change that to yes. And the special effect property, I'm gonna change it to etched. Okay, and I'm gonna also change the 4 color as well. So I'm gonna go in and change it to the same one, the same blue color. Okay, so if I go and view my form now, you can see that I've done a little bit of formatting on this. Looks a bit better, right? And so the idea here is I've done this, and maybe maybe that's it. I just want to format these two fields. But in a lot of situations, you want to apply the same formatting to a bunch of other controls on your form. So the way you do that is to use the Format Painter. So pretty much what I have to do is click on the customer number control. It's selected. And then I'm going to go to the Format tab here, and I'm going to double click the Format Painter. Now you can single click it, but then you can only apply it once and then it deselects. If you double click it, now I'm in a mode where I'm permanently have it selected. And from here, I can just go ahead and click all the different fields, and it will update them accordingly. Okay, there we go. And then you just have to click once to basically exit out of the Format Painter mode. All right, so I can now save it again. Let's just go take a look, see what this is looking like. So go into my form view. There we go. It looks quite a bit better. Yeah, it looks nice. Right. Okay, next up, we're gonna add a title and expand the form header section. Right, so to do that, I go to the form design tools, and I'm going to go to, I don't see where I'm going, one sec. There's a header footer group. Oh yes, there is, right here, header footer group. And I'm gonna click on title. So what this does is it gives me a form header and a form footer. And this is very similar to when we did reports, that you can add a form header and a form footer, and then there will only be one of these at the start of your report or form, and there will be one footer at the end, all right? Now there is also a page header and page footer, and that applies more to reports where you might have more than one page. It's pretty unusual to have a form that is multiple pages, but if you did, you could also apply a page header and page footer if you wanted. So I've added in my form header, and the form has a title here, customer view and update form, which is fine. And I'm just gonna do a little bit of formatting on this. I'm going to drag down and make my form header a little bit bigger. I'm gonna be adding another control up there in a little bit. And I'm also going to go here and apply a bold font style to the form header. So if I go to Format, I can go click on Bold, and there I've made the font bold. In addition, if I want, I can go and change the background color of just the form header. So like I changed the background color of the form detail. And let's just take a quick look here. If I go to my form view, you can notice that the color is slightly different. If I want that color to match, I could do the same thing where I would go to, where am I here? Okay, yeah, sorry, go back to design view. And then I'm going to go and basically select the form header. And from there, I can go to the format and I can go select the same gray color, and now the backgrounds will match. All right, so at this point, we're ready to get started on the command buttons. So these are basically buttons, as I mentioned, that carry out specific actions, and they use macros to do this. Now, lucky for us, Access adds the macros for us. Oftentimes, though, you might have to go in and make some small adjustments to the macros, but for the most part, they work out of the box. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is add some buttons. So I'm going to go back to my Form Design Tools, Design tab, and I can select a button, and I'm going to go and place the button just on this bottom row right here. And before I do that, actually, let's just undo that. One thing I should mention is I do have the Use Control Wizards option selected. So if you're going around and dropping in some of these things and you're not seeing the wizard, you need to go and select Use Control Wizards. You could go and set this all up yourself, but you'd be doing a lot of extra work. Now this should be what you see by default is Use Control Wizards. Okay, so I select the button and I'm gonna place it. And right away I have a bunch of different actions I can use for this button. So the action I'm gonna select is gonna be record navigation, and I'm gonna go to the next record. So this is gonna be my next record button. And if I wanted, I could use an arrow picture, and there's a couple pictures that are shown right here. I can also go and load in my own images, but in this case, I'm going to use text, and I'm just gonna go with the default text here of next record. So I can click OK again. And now it's asking me to name the button. And when you're creating these buttons and controls and such, it's important to give them a good name. When you go in to use macros or VBA, you're going to be referring to these buttons. And if you leave it as like command 27, you're not gonna know really which is which. So the book is suggesting to go in and name it next record with a space, but that is not a good idea. As we know with variable names, you can't have spaces between them. So you really have a choice. You can either put an underscore under it, or you can just eliminate the space. So in my case, I'll just put an underscore because that's the other way that the book recommends later on. And that button is done. I can now hit finish. So once again, good idea to always test stuff out as we're going. So I'm gonna go to my form view, and I can use this button now, and I can just select next record, and you can see it scrolls through the different records. All right, now I'm on to page 430, and there's several other buttons that I need to add to this form. There's a previous record, an add record, a delete record, and a close form. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add these as quick as possible. So I'll just be basically clicking here and dropping in some buttons. This one's going to be go to previous record. So I go next, the text is go to previous, and I'm gonna call this previous record, finish. Just wanna adjust the position of it just a little bit. Okay, there we go. All right, and next button is gonna be add record. So for this one, it's going to be a record operations, and it's going to be add new record. And the text will be add record, and I will name it add underscore record. Okay, and next up is delete record. I'll use the text of delete record and name it delete underscore record. Okay. All right, so, and I still have to do the close form. Okay, hold on. Close form. So for this one, this is going to be a form operation and close form. And the text will be close form, and I will call it close underscore form. All right, there we go. So at this point, I can go and try out some of these. It's probably a good idea. So just go to form view, and for this record here, I can go to the next record. I can go to the previous records. I could close the form. Now, if I want to add a record, what'll happen, I click the add record and it clears the form, and now I can go ahead and enter in my information. One of the small issues though is that I don't have one of the controls that I need to start typing into selected. The add record button is still selected. It would be preferable if the customer number or customer name became selected, and I can tab through and enter all of my values. So that's one improvement we can make by editing our macro. All right, so now we're gonna add a combo box to our form. And we already used a combo box already. We have the book rep number where we can select a valid book rep number using a combo box. This time though, we're gonna add a combo box to search for different records based off of the customer name. So you can basically get a drop down of different customers. You can select it, and then that row in the table will be loaded into the form. All right, so to do that, we go and select our combo box, and we can come into here and just drop it in. And once again, we get the wizard that pops up, right? And in this case, I want the combo box to find a record on my form based on the value I selected in my combo box. So I'm going to go next. And the fields I want to add in is going to be customer number, or sorry, customer name. So I'm going to add customer name. And I think that is it. I'm going to hit the next button. And this is what's going to be displayed in my combo box. Now I should double click here just to expand out each column. And I'm hiding the column key because I only want to have them type in the customer name for doing their search. So from there, I can go to the next button. And now it is asking me for a label. And the book is recommending that I use an ampersand and then name to find. And you're probably wondering, well, why are we adding an ampersand? And it says here that if you set the label using an ampersand, then you can hold down Alt and hit N, in this case, I guess the first letter, and that'll take you to that control. All right, so I can hit Finish. And the next thing we're gonna do is just add a little bit of formatting. So in this case, we're gonna add a rectangle, and we're gonna add this around the combo box and the label that goes with it. So I can just drop that in, and I can adjust the sizing elements here. There we go. I can also go into some of the properties as well and modify how the rectangle looks. So in this case, they want me to change the special effect property. It's already etched. And the value of the back style property, it's just saying that I need to make sure it's transparent. If it's not transparent, then the rectangle will cover what it circles around. All right, so at this point I can save this. And I think I can go and let's test this stuff out. So I'm gonna go back to my form view now. And right now, if I go and pick one of these items here, it's going to update the form data. So that's pretty neat. Okay. But one problem though with this combo box, the way it's set up right now, is if I go to the next record or previous record, we notice that the combo box is not updating with those records. And it should be, right? The data is not consistent if we don't do that. So that's one thing that we're going to fix coming up. And the other one is going to be our add record. So right now with the add record, when I select it, it clears everything out, but the focus should be moving to the customer number. So I can start entering that, and then I can traverse through the list and enter whatever I need. Okay. All right, so let's take care of fixing up the add record command. So basically, we're going to go ahead and select this button in Design View. And when we go into the events, we notice that there is a macro here. So we can open up this macro and we can modify it so that it will then add the focus to the customer number field in this case. However, to be able to do that, we have to make sure that the customer number field is properly named. So let's double check to make sure. I'm going to click on customer number. I'm going to go to all. And what we notice is we have customer space and then a number. So that's not going to work. I need to change the name of this control to customer underscore number. All right, so now I can go back to my add record. and I'm going to go to the events, and on click, I'm going to go to the build command here, and I can see the macro that I have. So basically, all this macro does right now is the first thing is on error. So if there's an error somewhere, it's going to continue on. It's going to go to the next event, and then it's going to go to record. And if I click on this, it's going to go to a new record. So in other words, this is going to clear out what's currently there and set us up for a new record. And the last one basically checks if there is an error in the macro, it's going to pop up a message box displaying that error. All right, so we need to now insert some extra behavior here so that when the add record button is pressed, we're also going to move our focus to the customer number control. So to do that, I'm going to open up on my action catalog under database objects. I'm going to open up my database objects, and I want to select go to control. So I can click this, I can drag it in, and I want this to come right after my go to record. And from here, I can type in customer underscore number, and I will save this and close it. And now when I go to form view, if I select add record, what we notice now is the control has been passed to the customer number, so I can now start typing in a customer number as I add a new record. So that's a nice improvement to my form here. All right, so let's modify the combo box. So I'm going to go to design view. All right, so as I said, we need to modify the combo box so that when we move to new records, the data inside the name to find combo box is up to date and accurate. So the first thing we need to do is select the combo box, and I'm going to go in and make sure the name has a value that's going to be easy for us to use. So right now it's combo 32. That would work because there's no spaces, but a better name would be preferable. So I am going to call this name underscore to underscore find. Okay, so I'll save that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down my property sheet. Actually, I'm going to deselect the combo box, and I'm going to select the form. So a couple ways I can do that. I could go to my property sheet and just go and select the element that says form. The other one is to go up to the top left, and there's a little indicator up here. If I select that, that automatically selects the form. So to make sure that the data is up to date, what we need to do is handle the onCurrent event. The onCurrent event handles triggers in a bunch of situations, but one of them is when the form is refreshed. So if we pull down new data, we will get the onCurrent event. And if we run some code at this time, we have the ability to modify the combo box for the name to find to keep it up to date. So I'm going to scroll down here, and actually I'll go to events, and I'm looking for onCurrent. Oh, it's right at the top. That's cruel. That's cruel. Okay, so onCurrent is here, and I'm gonna select the builder option. And we've used this before when we go in to do macros. This time though, we're gonna use VBA, or Visual Basic for Applications, specifically for Access in this case. So I'm gonna select Code Builder and select OK. And basically I get a development environment that comes up, a code editor, and I can basically add the VBA code here and save it, and then that code will be run from the forms. Okay. So for this, I'm going to want to create basically a statement that says name underscore to underscore find, right? That's the name of the control, the combo box that I want to update. And I'm gonna set that equal to the customer underscore number. Okay, and the customer number, that's been now updated, and I want to make sure that the name to find is up to speed and will have that value. And in VBA, a comment is just a single quote, and I'm going to leave a comment here that says update the combo box. Okay, so once this is done, I can save that and then close my VBA. And at this point, if I save my form and go back to form view, if I move between records, okay, we can now see that the combo box is being updated as we move between different records. All right, so that's just a short exercise just to do a few more things with forms. Also, we looked a little bit, we did one small example with VBA. I'm hoping to do a few more examples coming up. There are a few parts of the project that are going to be easier to do using VBA, namely, I think the switchboard forms to move between the different reports. I think that's going to be a lot easier to do using just some simple VBA. So I'm hoping I can come up with some examples and show you guys and just do a little introduction to VBA. All right, so that's going to be it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.